Good afternoon. Today we will be discussing about the industry analysis, which is a very important component for an entrepreneur. Industry analysis for an entrepreneur or a company is the method that helps to understand a company's position relative to other participants in the industry. It helps them to identify both the threats and the opportunities that are coming on their way, and also it gives them a great or strong ideas of the present and the future scenario of the industry. It is a business function completed by business owners and other individuals to access the current business environment. This analysis helps business understand the method, what it is going on. So if it is not done in a proper way, if it is not, analysis is not done up to the mark, then it is really becomes very difficult to know who the competitors are. So when studying an industry, an entrepreneur must find answers to at least 3 questions before he puts his idea into practice or he makes his dream come true. So the first question is the industry accessible? In other words, we can say, is it realistic place for a new venture to enter? The second question to be answered is, does the industry contains market that are ripe for innovation or are underserved? And the third question is, are there options in the industry that avoid some of the negative attributes of the industry as a whole? An industry analysis basically has 3 major elements. The first one is the overall attractiveness of the industry. That means, it means the profit. It can be a short-term profit, it can be a long-term profit. It is a measure of the potential value of a particular market. The second is the critical factor that determines a company's success within the industry. And the success factors are its operations, marketing, that includes the sales responsiveness, customer relations, and third is the finances, which includes the facilities, assets, equipments, and so on. And the third point is the underlying force at work in the industry. And these depends upon the potential for a new competitor to enter the market, the bargaining power of buyers and suppliers, the availability of substitute goods, the competitors, the nature of competition. Coming to the key characteristics in an industry analysis, they are the past sales and earning performance, permanence of the industry, attitude of government toward the industry, labor condition within the industry, competitive conditions as reflected in any barrier to entry that might exist, and lastly, the stock prices of firms in the industry relative to their earning. To conduct a thorough industry analysis, one has to get ready, that is detailed research in the first step. Then examine your competitor. Who are your competitors? Then analyzing the competitive data that has been collected. Then you have to evaluate your position, that is where you stand. Then comes the SWOT analysis. And finally, the competitive force model. The industry environment basically comprises of 3 components. The first is the customer. The effective strategists are concerned with their customers, their need, their requirement, their desire, who are their potential customers, their locations, as well as the trend in the future that might lead to change in customers' buying pattern. So the various issues that are related to the customers and potential customers are the customers' identification. Customers show their interest in a product or service for various reasons. They purchase a product or services because it satisfies their requirement, their desire, their need. And marketers generally describe three distinct classes of customers. One is the consumer, the second is the retailer and or wholesaler, and third is the industrial or institutional buyers. And each of these groups has some different factors that affect their purchase decision. In case of retailer and or wholesaler, they decide in favor of a product or services because of competitiveness of a product or service, product availability, product turnover, consumer recognition, profit potential, promotion and merchandising support and supply, dependability, and so on. Now, cost versus profitability, price, product, performance, product information, source availability, legal conformity, technical assistance, all these influence the industrial and or the institutional buyers. These factors vary in importance. For example, industrial buyer of a durable goods may be more concerned with the setup or maintenance cost of the equipment as a factor in their own profitability and less concerned with the price. The same purchaser may be very price sensitive to commoditives as pen, paper. So, consumer product firms adapt their strategies as customers' needs shift and as demographic changes take place. Corporate strategies identify the nature of the customers, their needs and desire in order to avoid threat or loss of customers and create opportunities for them to find new customers or sell more to existing ones. Again, we say that customers and their needs are constantly changing. The next factor regarding the customers is the demographic factor. Now, several important conditions are associated with the general population that affects the market for goods and services for the different industries. Marketers refer to these as the primary demand factors. They can be change in population, age shift in the population, income distribution of the population. These are the most common factors that create threats and opportunity and affect the strategies of different type of firms in different industries. Next, we have to see the geographic factor of a customer. An effective strategist also examines the geographic environment to identify opportunities and threats as part of analyzing the customer sector. The statistics has essentially to determine if conditions are better elsewhere for achieving corporate objective. He seeks new locations to add to current location or search area to relocate. Sometimes a change involves moving corporate headquarters to new region. It also means moving the plant or operation location from the city to a suburb or from one city to another. Thus, in the customer sector of the industry environment, the firm's strategy must be related with its customer and their need and their desire and requirement. Changes in their purchase pattern and also their locations. The second component is the supplier. The supplier of a firm provides labor, material, capital, and so on. And effective strategies are concerned with supplier changes in the environment, cost and availability of all the factors of production, raw material, sub-assemblies, energy, employee, and so on. The power relationship between the firm and the suppliers affect them. The power of buyer also affects the cost of supply. And the third component is the competitor. The strategist must also assess the state of competition in the industry. Environment for this determines whether a firm will remain in its current business and what strategies it will follow to continue its business. The factors must be examined regarding the competition are entry and exit of major competitor, substitutes and complements for current product and services, major strategic changes by current competitors. Now coming to the type of industry analysis, basically there are three main ways in which you can perform the industry analysis, but we will discuss few more. One is the Porter's 5 force or the competitive force model. This is one of the most famous model of the industry analysis that is existing today. Actually, it was first used by Michael Porter in the book Competitive Strategy, Techniques for Analyzing Industries and Competitors. This book lays out the theory that there are 5 forces. The analysis of these forces will give a business a proper impression of what is going on within the industry. So they are the intensity of rivalry in the industry. The two factors one can use to gauge how competitive the industry is that takes part in the industry and the number of participants that are taking part in the industry and the market share that each industry player commands. The variety of factors that determines this there isn't much differentiation in the product sold in the industry. The same applies if there are such factors as labors, union, restriction by the governments, and high exit cost due to the nature of fixed asset. All these things will contribute to the intensity with which competitor will go at each other. Also, there exists a large number of competitors that are comparable in size and power, making it more difficult for a competitor to gain dominance over another and for stability to be reached. Next, when there are high fixed costs, creating a strong temptation to cut down prices to increase capacity utilization. Then when an industry is experiencing slow growth, this may also increase rivalry if it is entering maturity, as competitors are eager to establish themselves as the market leader. Competitors diverse in terms of resources, styles, strategies, priorities, and personalities with different ideas of how to compete. The next is the threat of new entrant to the industry. That is how easy it is for a new firm to enter the industry. Can a new firm just walk in and set up an industry without too many things going against them? If it is very easy for a new business to enter the market and set up, then the players already in the market are constantly facing the threat of new competition. Also, in addition to the competition that is already existing, and even entry of potential competitors. Basically, potential competitors are companies that are not competing presently in the industry, but they have the capability to do so if they want. These new entrants in an industry typically bring to its new capacity a desire to gain market share and substantial resources. They are therefore threat to an established company. Established company in an industry, they try to discourage potential competitors from entering. Since the more companies enter the industry, the more difficult it becomes for the established company to keep their share of the market and generate profit. So the new entrant to an industry typically bring to its new capacity a desire to gain market share and substantial resources. And they are a great threat to the companies that are already existing. The threat of these new entry depends on the presence of entry barrier and the reaction that can be expected from existing competitor. So basically entry barrier is an obstruction that makes it difficult for a company to enter an industry. The barrier to entry implies that there are significant costs. There are a significant cost to join the industry. The higher the cost, the potential entrant must bear, the greater are the barrier to entry. High entry barrier keeps potential customers out of the industry, even when industry returns are high. The main sources of industry barriers are economic scale, which means that as the company is growing and the production is increasing, a company will have a better chance to decrease its cost. That is, more units of goods and services are produced in a large scale with fewer input costs, then the economy of scale is achieved. The scale economy results in saving. If these cost advantages are significant, then the new entrants face the problem of entering on a small scale, or otherwise they have to bear a significant cost disadvantage or take a very large risk by entering on a large scale and bear the significant capital cost. The next barrier is the brand loyalty. What is brand loyalty? It is basically the positive feeling towards a brand and dedication to purchase the same product or the service repeatedly, whatever be the competitors' actions may be or change in the environment. So continuous advertising of a brand and a company's name, patent protection of product innovation through companies' research and development, etc., create brand loyalty for a company. New entrant cannot take market share away from established companies if they have created the brand loyalty. And thus it reduces the threat of new competitors. The third barrier entry is the absolute cost advantage. It refers to the ability of a business to produce more, sell more of a good or services than the competitor using the same amount of resources. Now, superior production technique can give rise to absolute cost advantage. Past experience, secret process, patents, control of particular inputs required for production, like material, equipment, management scale, etc., can be the techniques to achieve cost advantage. If established companies have an absolute cost advantage, the threat of entry again decreases. The next is switching cost. Also, it is known as the switching barrier. It is the cost associated with a customer switching from one supplier to another. The most prevalent switching costs are the monetary in nature, but there are also psychological, effort-based, and time-based switching costs. Next barrier is the capital requirement. It is the amount of capital a financial institution or a bank has to have as required by the financial regulation laid down, like the need to invest huge financial resources in manufacturing facilities in order to produce large commercial, say aeroplanes, create a significant barrier to entry to any competitors, like for example, the Boeing. The next barrier is the access to distribution channel. Distribution channel is a chain of businesses or intermediaries through which a good or services pass until it reaches the end customer. Now, distribution channel can include wholesaler, retailer, distributor, or it can be even our internet. So some small entrepreneur often find it difficult to get supermarket shelf space for their goods because large retailers charge for space on their shelves and give priority to the established firm. The next barrier is the differentiation, which means the provision of a product or services regarded by the user as meaningfully different from the competitor. The organizations that are able to achieve differentiation provide for themselves real barrier to competitive advantage. Next comes barrier is the government policies. Government can restrict entry into an industry through licensing requirement by restricting access to raw material, for example, oil drilling sites in protected areas and so on. If entry costs are especially high and it is extremely difficult for a new entrepreneur to enter the market, then whichever company currently enjoys the competitive advantage gets to enjoy the competitive advantage for a little while longer. Also, as long as entry is difficult, then the company player will face the same competitors throughout, which makes it much more easier for them to adjust. Now coming to the bargaining power that is enjoyed by the suppliers. Now, does the industry you are trying to get into have a small number of suppliers? You have to find out these things. And if it does, then those suppliers will have a lot of bargaining power as they enjoy a kind of oligopoly. If there are a lot of suppliers, then the bargaining power will be shifted to the business. But if suppliers can exercise their bargaining power and affect an industry through their ability to increase the price or by reducing the quality of the product or services supplied. The supplier's power is likely to be high if there is concentration of suppliers than a fragmented source of supply. It can also be if products is not a standard commodity but is a unique one. When the product that the suppliers sell have few substitutes and is crucial to the industry's production process. When the next is the suppliers, when the suppliers' respective products are differentiated to such an extent that it is costly for a company to switch from one supplier to another. So when the supplier, these are in favor of the suppliers, the suppliers are having an upper hand over the business. So this can be crucial for a small business because dealing with difficult suppliers can have a direct influence on the price of the product and also on their final quality. Next, coming to the bargaining power of buyers. It is a little different when we consider the kind of bargaining power that the buyers have. If the buyer enjoys most of the power, then the buyer can demand low prices on product, also better quality product and discount, or after sales services on those products. Typically, this is what happens in industry where buyers are powerful. So when the buyers are powerful, the buyers are powerful if there are few buyers, but lot of businesses offering the same product. Few buyers will have the bargaining power in that industry. Next is when the buyer purchases in bulk, they will again bargain for a price reduction. Next is if the quality of the product is not particularly important for them, then also the buyer will become more powerful. They will bargain. And next is if there are readily available substitute, and obviously the buyer will go for the substitute. The next is the threat of substitute goods and services. Typical industries do not experience competitions only within themselves, they also compete with each other. An industry will be in direct competition with another industry that offers substitute goods or services for that industry. The substitute products are those products that appear to be different but can satisfy the same need as another product. The fewer are the substitutes, the greater the difficulty of switching to them. The more secure is the firm revenue. According to Porter, substitutes limit the potential return of an industry by placing a ceiling on the price firm in the industry can profit charge. The existence of close substitute presents a strong competitive threat, limiting the price a company can charge and thus its profitability. For example, tea can be considered as a substitute for coffee. Because if the price of coffee goes up high enough, then coffee drinker will slowly begin to switch to tea. The price of a tea thus puts a price cap on the price of coffee. However, if a company's product have few close substitute, other things being equal, the company has the opportunity to raise price and earn additional profit. By extension, all of the companies within an industry will be profitable because there is less glass ceiling on the price they can charge for their product or services. There are generally two kinds of substitute. The first is the product that have the same quality or function as the product in question, but are products offered at a lower price. The cost is low. Whereas the second is the products that are offered at the same price as the product in question, but are of higher quality or great utility. Now there is another sixth point, that is relative power of stakeholders. The sixth force is added to Porter's five forces to include the effect of a variety of stakeholders group from the task environment. Some of these groups are the government, local communities, creditors, trade association, union, shareholders. So the importance of these stakeholders differs by industry. Now coming to the Second industry analysis is the ratio analysis. Several ratios, for example, profit per employee, is determined using the information and data from the industry and to compare it with the average of the industry as a whole. So one can get an estimate about the progress of a particular unit by the help of this ratio. The industry analysis is important in cases like diversifying and investing and the rations analysis proves to be a greater tool for this purpose. The third is the broad factor analysis or the PEST analysis. It typically stands for political, economical, social, and technological analysis. It is highly useful framework with which we gain an understanding of the environment within which one is operating. In order to perform the complete PEST analysis, each of the four factors must be analyzed in detail. The political factor are the factors that affect an industry which are determined by the authorities. They include the regulation policies that affect the industry directly. It can be the tax, labor law, political stability, and etc. The economic factors that governs the industry and the country within which the business operates. They include factors like access to capital, the GDP growth, the interest rate, the exchange rate, and so on. The social factors are prevalent trend in the society within which the business and the industry is operating. That includes aspects of society like social movement, fashion, demographic, population, health, etc. Whereas the technological factor includes all factors that have to deal with any development or advancement in the technology that can change the mode of operation of the business or even disrupt the industry analysis entirely. Next, coming to the SWOT analysis. This stands for basically, as everyone knows, is the strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat. With SWOT analysis, one can figure out one's strength, what one's strengths are, and according to the best analysis, what are the weaknesses, what are the opportunities, and what threat one has to deal with. Strength are the characteristics that the business has that give some kind of advantage over the competitors, whereas weakness are the characteristics of the businesses that give in some kind of disadvantage relative to the competitors. And opportunity are the elements which is comes from the external environment that allows you to form and implement strategies to make the business more profitable. Threat are the elements in the business external environment that also harms the integrity or profitability of the business. Whatever is being conducted, any kind of analysis on the industry basically come across two type of factors. The internal factors that is which are already exist within the business and that have contributed to the business current position. These factors may or may not cease to exist in the new future, whereas the external factors are those that exist outside of the control of the business. They are assessed on the probability of their occurrence and on the kind of impact they would have on the business. Now coming to the next slide, that is the necessity of industry analysis. Industry analysis for a company, entrepreneur or a company is a method that helps to understand the company's position relative to other participants in the industry. It also helps them to identify both the opportunity and threat coming in their way and gives them a strong idea of the present and the future scenario. The industries, the necessity analysis can be explained as retaining the valuable, the existing customer, attracting new customer, as sustainability of business, integrating strategy in culture, star performer, creating a bigger picture of your business. Now, coming to the success factor. Are those elements that determine whether a company's success or failure in a given industry. They vary greatly by industry. Some of the possible factors are quick response to market change, complete product line, fair price, excellent product quality or performance, knowledgeable sales support, a good record for deliveries, solid financing, financial standing, a strong management team. The reason for identifying this success factor is that it will help you to lead to areas where you can establish competitive advantage. Benefits of industry analysis. The benefits of competing and industry analysis in a business plan that a company manager gains a better understanding of the business in the industry. The industry analysis report is beneficial as it helps to assess the profitability of a particular industry. It is generally able to forecast the potential behavior of the competitor. Industry analysis is a tool to develop a competitive strategy that will act as the best defense against competitive forces. It also helps to highlight the strength and the weaknesses of an organization. It also pinpoints the area where strategic changes has to be done to get the best result. It also emphasizes on the area where the industry trend shows threats or even opportunity. Industry analysis helps the entrepreneur to know about the position of his company relative to that of the competitor. Can also easily forecast the demand and supply and consequently about the financial gain. Industry analysis helps to discover untapped opportunity in the industry. It also allows companies to position themselves carefully in their industry. It also helps the companies to better respond to any change in the industry. Now coming to the limitations. The limitations of an industry analysis are as follows. The seasonal factors play a key role in an industry and can have a direct impact on the purchase and sales pattern. If analysts do not consider this factor, it can prove a serious limitation in the industry analysis report. Also, if an industry is hit by inflation severely, it has a direct impact on the balance sheet and thus can prove a severe limitation from the industry analysis report. Industry analysis is a subjective method and is not a guarantee of success. Sometimes the incorrect interpretation of data can result in choosing the wrong path and making the wrong decision. So, as we have been discussing the benefits of using industry and analysis, where all these, so it helps you to find out where you stand and what actions one has to take so that you will be able to successful. You will be able to compete your competitors. You will be able to create a barrier for your new entrant. So industry analysis is very, very important. So what do? We collect the data and then as much data, the data samples must be very high and it should be analyzed properly. Then only it will give you a clear picture about the industry and your competitors. So with this, we end our today's topic of industry analysis. Thank you.